Wow, what a movie. There is no question that a rising stagnancy has reared its head, increasingly so for Marvel as the years have gone by, with quality films like Spider Man No Way Home and Avengers Endgame becoming more like exceptions rather than the rule, in a universe littered with repetition, a diminishment of ideas, and more recently, strong societal messaging that historically has not gone over very well with fans. But if you were hoping that this movie is good, worry not. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is a winner, not just in terms of scope and story, but also in terms of theme, characterization, and the willingness to take risks despite an overused and abused formula that even the youngest of moviegoers could point out like a presentation on a projector. I'm not going to sugarcoat things here, though. This is definitely due to Sam Raimi. That guy can direct movies, and if you're at all familiar with his past filmmaking endeavors, then you'll know that you're in for a trip, and I mean a trip, when you go to see this action-packed, campy, funny, straight-up horror film that is full of so many surprises that you may actually pass out. There was a point where I was sitting in the theater with my oldest son where I had to lean back in my chair and process how many cool things were happening at once and chuckle to myself because it made me realize that I was having so much fun. Then it occurred to me. Previous MCU movies haven't really done that for me in quite some time, save for the aforementioned gems that we've been blessed with. And that really is the reason we should be going to the movies in the first place, to escape what is unavoidably a crappy reality right now. And the last thing that general audiences want is to have what is happening in the real world be so heavily applied to their fantasy-based escape from it. Now, yes, there is a bit of ideology injected into the film's script when it comes to Xochitl Gomez's America Chavez, and from what I was seeing in other reviews, there are people who like her and dislike her for a variety of reasons. I personally never have heard of her character prior to seeing this movie, and in the film itself, she's portrayed as a sidekick who provides exposition rather than a poster child for representation of certain groups. I didn't find anything wrong with her character, but I didn't find her particularly interesting either, and that's even with the backstory that they give her. It's really not something that we haven't seen before, which is understandable given that many characters in comic books share similar origin stories. And from time to time, writers and directors try new things to make their original characters more interesting and appealing to their target demographic, and it doesn't always work, but here it's just like, okay, fine. Speaking of sidekicks, there are also Doctor Strange fans who feel that he was kept on the sidelines for much of the film, but I really did not see that, and usually that is an opinion I would agree with in other cases. I can see that there is a real effort to fix the relationship that Marvel has with its fans, and Doctor Strange is very much front and center here. Sam Raimi gives Benedict Cumberbatch quite a lot to do, and let me tell you, Doctor Strange does some crazy things in this movie, just amazing things, and you will be pleased with the direction that they take him in. The same can be said for Elizabeth Olsen's The Scarlet Witch, but in a completely different way, and that's something that I can't really discuss due to spoilers, but wow. I wasn't kidding when I said that Marvel took some serious risks here, and much of what happens will shock, awe, and again, from what I've seen in other reviews, frustrate some people. But I can't say that I share their views on that because I have a general understanding of how films work, or in other words, how they should work, as stories really do need to take risks and allow their characters to evolve in a way that makes sense in terms of the context of the film that they're in, and in terms of the theme that they're being given. And the theme for this film is horror. This movie is really scary. The villain of the film is scary and has some terrifying motivation, but the most important aspect of the villain, in contrast to its hero, is that within the context of the story, everything makes sense. It feels like the story is what would happen to these characters, and not everyone will appreciate that, but I feel that the majority should and will, and again, that is the beauty of being an individual with views that pertain to your interests and to your sense of morality. You may find yourself questioning the path that these characters go down, and by the end you may be satisfied with that, or you may not be, but I think that's the point. As for the film being scary, yeah, it is. There were a few moments where I asked my son if he was doing alright because he's a much younger Marvel fan than I am. He admitted that a few scenes in the movie freaked him out, and the same could be said for me, and after the movie was over, I wondered if I did the right thing in bringing him along with me to see it. There's a lingering sense of campy terror that only directors like Sam Raimi can effectively execute, and he brings his absolute A game here. Think back to Spider-Man 2 in that operating room scene with Dr. Octopus's tentacles outright murdering surgeons. Very much of what that scene is, you see here, but I'd argue that he doubles down on it in many ways. He clearly has a lot of fun terrifying people, and I really appreciate that due to the fact that I myself love horror movies so much, and I think that Marvel would be very wise to do this more often and let directors who actually know what they're doing and who actually understand their audiences to tackle these films and put their own spin on things. Because in the Multiverse of Madness, it works. It just works. And again, there are a lot of surprises. So many surprises that it's stupid how many surprises there are, and I just find it hilarious that I can't talk about it. I feel like if I were to touch on any of the story further than I already have, I might actually spoil the movie for those that watch this, but all I can say is trust me, bro. You're in for a real treat here, and the action is no exception. They make really good use of set pieces here, and there are a good number of them. Very immersive, colorful, and unexpected environments tailored with scenes of over the top fights that leave you cheering at some points and then shouting in fear at other points. Or perhaps even laughing because this movie is very funny as well, and I'd say unintentionally in some moments involving the side characters, but the way that they use magic in particular, or at least in showcasing these various heroes' powers, are truly unique and, in some ways, a departure from how we've seen them used before. And it's a lot of fun because it makes the film unpredictable in a great way. One thing that stood out above other things, at least for me, was the glorious return of Danny Elfman, who is once again creating a truly spectacular score for Sam Raimi's Doctor Strange sequel, and you can see that he puts his heart and soul into the music for this in a collaborative effort that is strikingly original in its own right, sharing the essence of, yet vastly different from, the scores of other Marvel films. It's a really unique set of sounds that work to heighten each scene and even play an integral part of the specific scenes in a way that may even break the fourth wall musically. Clearly, Sam and Danny are in on the joke, and it seems that they know that we know who they are and what they do, and we get to watch as they relish in their talents as both director and musician, and I think people who see this movie are going to very much enjoy what Elfman has done here, as he uses a mixture of symphonic orchestra and electric guitars that amplify the action and the emotion and especially the horror. As for character performances, everyone does very well, and viewers can expect that Elizabeth Olsen's performance stood out the most, or even equal to that of Benedict Cumberbatch, as they complement one another in terms of how they deal with the choices they've made, and the choices that they will have to make as they move forward. This is an ongoing theme throughout the film in which the characters struggle with what things in life make them happy and why they do the things that they do to achieve that happiness that they pursue. And it's interesting to watch how they pursue that goal and to see what they're willing to sacrifice in order to get it. And I suppose without spoiling how this goes about, the best way that I can describe how these heroes view doing the right thing is very much akin to the Batman and the Joker, in being two sides of the same coin, and I really loved the chemistry that these characters shared during their journey across the multiverse to find what they're looking for, and to discover who they are in the process, and it really goes to show how talented the team at Marvel are, in how they execute this message and showing its audience the importance of the philosophies that characters like Doctor Strange adopt for themselves and to stress to others, such as in Spider-Man No Way Home, where Stephen tells Peter that in the grand calculus of the multiverse, their sacrifice means far more than their deaths. And that philosophy continues to ring true within the context of this movie as well, as Doctor Strange believes that despite the wild nature of the multiverse and its many differences to our own universe, that there is still a sort of structure that needs to be maintained, and this is a story element that many of this film's characters weigh in on with their own perceptive viewpoints. And many of these perceptions change in exciting and sometimes frightening ways. In comparison to other films, it's probably closer to Infinity War as far as stakes go, and that ever-present feeling of hopelessness in the face of an unstoppable enemy where the losses and the struggles leave a lasting impact, and again, I really love the risks they took here, and it will be interesting to see how the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is impacted by these astronomical choices that are made, and I'm really excited for it. Anyway, everybody, that is my review for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I would really love to hear your feedback in the comments below. And I'll be leaving both my Twitter handle and my Discord links in the description. I'm definitely considering Patreon or some sort of subscription-based platform in the near future, and I'm really excited to keep making these reviews, but in the meantime, I would absolutely appreciate you guys spreading the word and getting my channel out there. That's all I've got for now. See you at the movies.